Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everybody in the virtual world. Welcome to IMEROPEX. We're doing a school safety demonstration here, and welcome aboard. Next. Right. What is PEER? We're representing a service here, Persistent Environment Experimentation Rehearsal. This is a capability that we'll be providing clients to examine what causes crisis to happen so you can mitigate them in the real world, and also providing an environment for rehearsal and training. So experimentation and rehearsal using VR and data science to make it happen. Next. Why are we doing this? There are two reasons. One, get user feedback primarily from stakeholders in school safety, and the other is to give you a preview of the Houston Community College pilot we're doing, planning for which will start in March with execution in the June-July timeframe. Next slide. There are two components of this. There's a VR component, which is the full dive virtual reality, that includes multiple VR systems integrated together to provide an immersive experience for the operators indistinguishable from the real world. And this is a patent pending capability that will be used by the operators in the IMEROPEX scenarios. Next slide. And the other part is the data science part, where we'll set up an experimental design and examine the impact of various factors on the mission by looking at a variety of metrics and provide feedback to clients on what factors make a difference and what don't, procedural, technical, operational. Next. And the school safety demo architectures, as you see, will have two humble ISD officers participating in the scenarios in full dive virtual reality technology, and then we'll have we'll have a virtual shooter that'll be a non-player character and teachers and students that are non-player characters, AI enabled. Next. The demo will have, as I said, two ISD police officers engaging in an active shooter threat under multiple conditions. One condition will be a base case where we have no new capabilities. Another will be a case where you have shot detection. Another case will be a case where you have facial recognition. And we'll be generating notional data to show you the kind of data we can collect to make decisions on experimental factors. Next. So I'm sponsoring this, but in partnership with ShinyBox, OmniSpace 360, Virtual Labs, Mace Virtual Labs, Morphic, Ion, Valiant Digital, and Mo Casey. And Humble ISD has an MOU with us to participate in the pilot. And your input is important. This is a QR code for the criticisms or critiques you want to make of the event to help us build a better product. Thank you.
All right, I'll step up. Hopefully I'm not in the way. Afternoon, I'm Daniel. I'm with ShinyBox. I'm on the software side. I'm going to be talking you through a few of the scenarios, what they mean, and I'm going to answer some questions that have cropped up a couple of times. You're going to see three scenarios. The first is, as Jim mentioned, it's a baseline. There's been a shooting in a school, officers are responding, and there is no shot detection, no facial recognition, so the officers have to find the perp and neutralize them. The NPC, the non-playing character, the shooter, is AI-based, and he has a set of behaviors. What you're seeing here is there's no smoke and mirrors. This isn't kind of a scripted thing. There are a bunch of operational parameters which are fixed because we're trying to get clean data from doing multiple runs, but there are variables which are fully dynamic scenario to scenario. So where the police enter, the behavior of the shooter, how he'll respond to the officers, how he responds to the students. So we're going to see that it'll be different each time we run. The guys are getting ready right now. You can see the picture in picture. So I'm going to take a seat and I'll commentate on what's going on when they start. While everyone's getting ready, I'll talk a little bit about what you can see on the screen. We're using haptic gloves, the omnidirectional treadmill, and the Tesla suit, coupled with a VR headset that does, of course, the spatial tracking, but also eye tracking. The officers are using gestures to draw their gun when they hold their gun in the proper two-handed way in which they train. You'll see that there is a gun in their hands, and then pulling the trigger, that gesture will shoot.
Yes.
And here the scenario is live.
2, 1, you're live.
So you see the shooting has begun. This is very PG, so we're not showing any casualties. We're not going to see anyone shooting anybody. The officers are looking for the shooter right now.
Let me see your hands, let me see your hands, let me see your hands.
So that first shot was the officers neutralizing the officer. Again, the shooter. We're not showing any kind of gore or violence in this version. It's PG, public facing. If they fail to neutralize the shooter, he will shoot at doors behind which are the students and the teachers. Those will tally casualties, but we're not showing any blood, anything like that for this session. So in what you just saw, both of the operators, who are now going to have a little 30-second cooldown, we're also going to pull data out of that scenario, and we'll show that at the end. They had no information. They were prompted only that there is a shooter on the school premises, and they had to go and find him. So they were seeking. They did not know where he was going to be. They had no notion of that. In the scenario you're about to see, the next scenario, what we're going to have is they will be prompted because the simulation is now simulating a shot detection system which knows the location of the last place that the shooter shot. Now that doesn't mean that's where the shooter is. The shooter could have shot and moved on. These are some of those chaotic variables. And the purpose of this is, of course, there is the training, the repetition side of this. But the reason that we keep random variables while we're trying to collect data is because we do not want the officers or whoever's using these systems to memorize a pattern of behavior. So every run will be different, but the parameters are constrained. And the idea is that we will run multiple simulations with the same, multiple runs with the same operational variables, and we'll capture all of the permutations and variations multiple times. And so eventually we will get smooth data, even though there are a bunch of variables which are not being controlled. So I'm going to give the signal to have the guy start. I'll take a seat. And we'll see how the guys do.
3, 2, 1. Guys, give us a 5 count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Live. Hey, give me your hand. Hands. Drop the gun. Drop the gun.
So here, the shooter is belligerent, was not following instructions, and not responding to officer actions. So they neutralized him very quickly. Again, this run was very short because they knew where the shots were fired. They entered at that location. The shooter was right there. So if we were to run that scenario 5 or 6 times, he might not be in that same location. He might behave differently. He could respond to the officers. He could not. He could be aggressive. He could be passive, in which case he will run away and then pick a different behavior once he reaches his destination. So the guys will cool down. That was a very quick one. That was the quickest one we've had yet. Any questions from anyone in the room at the moment?
I'm monitoring the live, so we'll see.
Okay. So the next scenario will be a little bit different. In the previous 2 scenarios, the officers have entered into the school. The shooting has already taken place. The active shooter is there on site, walking around. In this scenario, we're simulating a facial recognition system which has alerted the authorities that somebody is on campus who should not be, who's not authorized. And so when the officers start, they're prompted with the information and description of the person who is on site. So you're going to see it's a bit different this time. The shooting hasn't started yet. There are students in the hallways, and so I'll give them the thumbs up to go. And I'm going to take my seat, and again, I will commentate from the box.
Ready? We're going all right. Ryan, can you throw us up? Dylan, 3, 2, 1. Guys, we're going to get a 5-second count. 4, 3, 2, 1. Live. Yeah.
So in this scenario, again, the shooter was belligerent. He would not follow the instructions of the officers. And you see here, there's a slight delay here. He's drawn his pistol, he was shooting, and the officers made the right call to neutralize him very quickly. This was, again, another very short scenario. Normally, because of the different locations he can be, he might get a bunch more shots off. The students will flee, they'll run away from the shooter into the rooms, and so the officers in this scenario have to account for the fact that there's lots of people who all look the same, and they have to make some pretty quick decisions on how they're going to engage with the shooter. So now the guys are out of VR, that's our 3 scenarios. It was a very quick run for this one. What's happening at this point is the 3 simulations are collecting data. That data is now being pulled out, and we're constructing a UI which shows some of this data. Now, those sessions are very quick, so it'll probably be pretty straightforward. If there are any questions that come in, please let me know and I'll field them. The data that we're collecting for this version is quite straightforward, it's simple. We're looking at number of casualties, time of simulation, and across multiple runs, that becomes an average time per operational variable. But the key thing is we would run these multiple times with the same variable, and we will see the difference between 2 operational variables, how it influences the outcome of the scenario. So it'll take a few moments for the data to come online. Now, one of the questions we've been asked a few times is, here we have this very simple, very small kind of sandbox of a school. We have a cafeteria, there's an H-pattern corridor, there are only 9 classrooms. It's a very small sandbox. What can be done in this? What can be done with hardware? What can be done with software? The answer is most anything and possibly everything. So in terms of hardware, the technological stack is hardware agnostic. It doesn't matter if you're in full dive VR, it can go full dive all the way down to running this on a laptop, just with a single screen. And in fact, for the full runs, we'll have users in full dive, we'll have users in VR, users maybe who are not in VR, people who are monitoring operations. And the hardware itself, it doesn't matter which VR headset, it doesn't matter which controllers, which machine, doesn't matter which treadmill, that hardware is swappable. And that includes things like if officers want to simulate this with a physical rifle that they're holding in their hands, we can do that. We can track that in real space and it'll map into the VR space. So as they would aim in the real world, they will aim in the simulation too. And in terms of the environments, here we have this, again, simple school, but if we have images, architectural data, CAD files, or photogrammetry from a real location, we can build out that entire location. And then in those cases, these operational variables, which are ultimately helping the officers track down the shooter, are going to be much more effective when instead of 3 corridors, you have 50 corridors and a kilometer worth of walkways. So I'm going to take a seat until the data comes up. And if there's any other questions or anything else anyone wants to field, I'll take them. But I'm going to take a seat and spectate, and we'll see what data comes out. Those were very quick runs.
How'd the runs go? How'd the runs go? Okay.
They were good. They were just very quick. They found the shooter very quickly. Again, because of the procedural generation. Sometimes he's far, sometimes he's close. In this one, they came up. He didn't see the shooters. He was belligerent in all of the 3 scenarios. So we didn't see a surrender. He didn't shoot at the officers.
Hey, Daniel?
Yes.
One question online from Norm Linsky. He said, do you also collect data about the officers, for example, in terms of their years of experience, current previous duties or assignments, etc.?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We have, in this case, we have a questionnaire that we're running the officers through, so we will collect that data. When we go to do the bigger data processing, which includes collecting biometrics, we really want to collect all that stuff because that is a variable in the simulation as well. We need to know, it's meaningless data if we run 5 with a rookie and 5 with a 20-year veteran. We need to normalize. We need to average that out. We have to figure out a way of making that data meaningful. So collecting not just sort of the experience level but biometrics, and that includes things like not just heart rate and temperature, but eye tracking. These are lots of proxies we can use for stress and anxiety. So we have a full suite of stuff, and we can track them over a period of time as they're running through the sims. So yeah, all of that stuff has to factor in to get the good data.
Anything else, Steve?
I don't see any other questions.
We're waiting for the...
They'll put that up when it's ready. So I can talk a little bit about data collection. The system is collecting data from each client and it aggregates it. So again, because the technological stack is agnostic of hardware, it's also completely distributed. So here for this system, we're going to have a local location where people can come, go in full dive. But as we scale this up, the theoretical limit to the number of human users fulfilling different roles is probably about 100. So once we get to that level, they're not going to be co-located. Everyone is getting data collected at their side and it's all being pooled together. The data is ready. Okay, so let's take a look. It's going to be pretty straightforward. So this is showing the average times over our runs today. We're looking at 2 minutes 25 to do those multiple runs. We're looking at the number of civilian casualties in these scenarios and how many victims, how many times the officers have been shot, which is none today. And so here, I think this was our shortest duration session, 2 minutes. You can see how this is mapped across multiple sessions. So the more sessions we do, the better our data is going to be. And what you're seeing here in session data is just us cherry picking a few low-hanging fruit, but there is really no limit to what can be presented here. So when we build these out, we're working with subject matter experts to figure out what it is that is important to them. We build those variables into the simulation, and then we map that data and present it in a way that they can make decisions. For example, today we were asked, we had someone who was trying to adopt a particular protocol, but there's no data as to whether that protocol will make a difference or not. That protocol is very easily simulatable for us. So we put that in, that would be a data point, and then we could run 20, 30 runs with the protocol in place, with it not in place, and we will see the difference that it makes. And so we're empowering whoever uses this to make decisions with facts, with data, not with just feelings or intuition, putting hard numbers on anything that they're trying to measure. So again, there's really placeholder data, but the well goes much deeper than this. So if there's no more questions, I think we'll let people break. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.